headed into the 7th month of quarantining, and many of us are trying to balance what we know about the safety of social isolation with the stress of social isolation. That got me thinking about why it can be stressful to be alone and what is loneliness. Humans evolved as a social species. Like other social species, being alone in the wild means a terrifying fight for survival, and, of course, as always, a struggle to find mates. While we might not always get along perfectly with everyone, we thrive in groups, and we can accomplish more when we work together. When scientists say social behaviors, we mean influencing or being influenced by other people's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Our brains have an incredibly complex network of systems to navigate social behaviors. Obviously, language is a crucial part of social communication, but there's also body language and meaningful glances that convey tons of information about how someone else is feeling. My sister can send me a 2-second video of her facial expressions, and I can feel what she's feeling and change my attitude and behavior, suddenly laughing in the middle of a serious day. That kind of social interaction seems really simple, but it involves almost every part of your brain. Observing someone else's behavior, like an expression, recognizing it, internalizing it, and changing your behavior in response, it's a really remarkable series of actions that your brain is doing. When we become more isolated and we aren't interacting with as many different people, our brain circuitry misses those connections, literally. And in the brain, if you don't use it, you lose it. If we don't practice our social skills, those neurons begin to disconnect, and we begin to lose the ability to recognize and respond appropriately to social signals. With that, we become less comfortable with others, and we tend to isolate ourselves even more. One of the biggest problems with isolation is the disruption in the brain's pleasure pathways. Social behavior triggers pleasure along with the many sensory, motor, and processing regions of the brain that are involved. Our brains find it really rewarding to recognize other people's emotions and respond appropriately, which is why a joke is even funnier when you're laughing with someone, and it's soothing to cry with someone when you're in pain. The loss of those social rewards, that's the essence of loneliness. Loneliness isn't a new phenomenon, unique to the pandemic world. It happens routinely as people go through changes in their lives that disrupt their social networks. Starting a new school year, moving to a new place, a new job, retiring, going through a breakup or divorce. Our social networks are often in flux, but when they change a lot and when we're left feeling alone, loneliness can set in. Not everyone needs the same amount of social support and connection, and there's a huge variation in how comfortable someone is on their own. We think of those differences as fundamental personality traits when we take those online quizzes identifying us as an introvert or extrovert. Really, our need for social interaction to support mental health and well-being is a bit more fluid than you might think. With different life experiences and at different times of our life, the effects of social isolation can be really different. During this pandemic, for example, a social butterfly you know might be thriving on having a bit more quiet time, whereas someone who's typically really comfortable on their own might be struggling with loneliness. Social isolation is one of the key factors affecting mental and behavioral health at this time, and it's important to pay attention to how your friends and family are dealing with this isolation. A study conducted earlier this summer showed that depression and anxiety disorders have at least tripled since the pandemic began. Substance use is up by more than 10%, and suicidal ideation, that is, people who have seriously considered suicide, has doubled. As the effects of this pandemic stretch out before us, it will be important for us all to actively work to protect our own and others' mental health.